understanding what that language really means. In the first case, what we have is we have a situation in which we represented the seller. And on the purchase agreement, it said there was no appraisal addendum, but on the PA itself, it said that, just a minute, yeah, it just said that the seller or the buyer agrees to pay $3,000 over the appraised value. All right? Now, that is, morning, John.
Morning.
Right, that's fine. Except for the fact that if you have an offer and the offer is accepted and the offer is $365,000 and the appraisal comes in at $352 and the buyer is willing to pay $3,000 over the appraised value, what are they entitled to buy that house for? $355. Does the seller know that? No. The seller's assuming that they're willing to pay $3,000 over the appraised value over $365. So the way it was written has put our seller in a very precarious position. Imagine that same scenario if that offer came in at $365 and for some reason the appraisal came in at $310. The buyer is now getting a house for $313,000. Technically, yes. Do you think the seller's going to sell it to him? No. What have we got? We've got a contract that is enforceable. It's headed to the courts. Do you want to put yourself and have that conversation with your seller? Absolutely not. So you have to put a lower end in to protect your seller. You don't if you're a buyer. But you do if you're a seller. You want to make sure that everybody understands there's a minimum amount of money that they will be paying for that property. This morning, another agent came to me. We are the listing side. And they agreed to pay up to $10,000 over the appraised value, up to $365, and that they would pay no less than $365. That was exercised properly. We've heard from the other agent today that what's going to happen is that they're willing to pay $360. Well, the seller, no, I'm not selling it for $360. You've signed a contract that says you're willing to pay $10,000 over the minimum appraised value of $355. Anybody with a MacBook would tell you that's $365. So that, I just got to call in to the other broker to try to correct this situation. So in the first case, we've created a problem for our seller. In the second case, we've done everything properly, but we still have a problem because of a lack of understanding about what the appraisal addendum really needs to be able to accomplish. Okay? So that's important for you to understand in a market like this, in which you're seeing these all the time, in which you're going to be exercising your option as a buyer's agent many times. This is going to be part and parcel of what it is you're going to have to do. Hand one of these to Tim, if you would, Eric.
Oh, is that the addendum?
Yeah.
I have it.
Do you have it? Okay. So let's just go over. Of course, the top portion of the appraisal addendum is that up on the screen, by the way? No? Okay. This is what's up on the screen is a scenario we're going to give you guys in a few minutes. Right now, though, the appraisal addendum that I've handed out, the top portion is boilerplate language identifying the parties that are agreeing to this addendum. Paragraph 1 is very straightforward. The buyer agrees to pay full price regardless of the appraisal results. So in other words, if the appraisal does not meet sales price, buyer agrees to present seller with proof of funds, indicating they have sufficient funds readily available to pay all necessary costs, including down payment, closing costs, and the difference from the appraised value versus the sales price within 3 days. That means they agree to provide that information within 3 days. Okay? If the buyer's unable to, they will lose their deposit. Okay? Fairly strong, very straightforward. As a buyer's agent, the reason you would have a little bit of reluctance doing this is, gosh, I paid $380 and the appraisal comes in at $310. Your buyer's bringing $70,000 in addition to what the down payment is, their closing costs, and everything else. So, wouldn't recommend that was, as a buyer's agent, what you did, okay? However, you represent who? The buyer. The buyer may say, I want this house regardless. Well, this is certainly one way, making sure that you've written a strong offer and that they're going to get it. The second one is more likely to be used, and the second one reads, buyer agrees to either pay full price or blank amount over and above the appraised value, but not less than or more than the sales price as indicated. So what it does, on the PA, you've identified a sales price, okay? You've indicated that the buyer agrees to pay either full sales price or blank over and above. Make sense to you guys? Okay. If the appraisal,
It's not my phone.
okay, if the appraisal does not meet sales price, buyer agrees to present seller with proof of funds. Okay, let's discuss that for a second. If I'm the listing agent, you want to have egg on your face. Many times I've heard it being done in which is the listing agent, if I'm looking at 5 different offers, I may very well want to see proof of funds before I decide which offer to take. In other words, if John brings me an offer of $365, which is $10,000 over my asking price, I may very well go back and say, listen, John, I know this is difficult, but because I've got multiple offer situation, can you show me proof of funds for your buyer to prove that we're not going to get 30 days down the road and have to put it back on the market?
But still, if you mean proof, how do you know where it's going to appraise? So what kind of, if he may have proof of being able to finance it but not make up the difference?
Well, he should, because in this case, you've got a figure, okay? So if I'm putting $35,000 down, and I've got a $10,000, thank you, $10,000, who is sitting there?
I think
That's someone from the office calling, so
Oh.
you might have lost.
All right, well, they're just making sure.
it was there when Andrea was.
Oh,
going
Andrea's
through-
probably, yeah, okay.
Or coffee and.
So anyway, so now I have to show $45,000,
Sorry.
right? $35,000 down payment. I would also want to see $5,000 in closing costs, and I would also want to see another $10,000. So as a listing agent, I can thereby say to my client, we've had 5 offers, this person has a $10,000 appraisal addendum, I've verified funds, this is the best offer that we've got. This allows them to have 3 days afterwards, when the appraisal comes in, to prove it. You understand that distinction? Not as strong, but they're going to lose their deposit, so you would think that they take it very seriously. So they better have the funds. But that's giving the agent a lot of credit, and a lot of times I will tell you, an agent won't know what this means. No offense. You guys are all sharper than the other sticks in the playground. But having said that, we will have people that will use this that don't understand really what it means. Like that case this morning. Well, no, he's willing to pay $360. That's not going to do it. You know, so are you moving forward, or are you going to forfeit your deposit? That's our position. That's
Alan,
our
this
position.
is-
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, is full sales price what we wrote on the purchase agreement, or is it the MLS full price?
Yeah, full sales price I'm making
Oh, okay.
on what you read on the PA. Okay? So here's an example then of an appraisal addendum that protects your buyer and protects your seller in terms of a lower limit in terms of the amount. Because think about it. If I'm a listing agent and I haven't protected the low end, and I've agreed to say, hey, I'll take $3,000 over the appraised value, now the appraised value comes in at $20,000 less than the sales price, I got a problem. Right? You've got the problem. I'll help you with the problem. It's
Dave,
basically-
I used this first one.
Yeah.
On an offer, really competitive. I lost the the offer because the agent called me up and said, so, you know, what if it appraises at this figure, which was like 20-something thousand less than our offer price? He said, what are you guys gonna do? He's gonna bring $20-something thousand to the table. And I said, I mean, I was honest with him. I just said, you know, I don't see that happening, but if it did happen, no, he'd lose his earnest money.
Yeah.
And we lost the deal. So I think maybe when they see that first one, is that kind of like a red flag sometimes?
Well, you know, I don't know that it's a red flag. What it is, it's a little bit less comfortable for everybody. That's for sure. Okay? I don't know what they have to do here. So, all right. So here's what I want to do. I've got Tim, you're going to be involved. 1, 2, 3, 4. You guys at this table. Eric joined them. Tim, if you would join these guys over here. I've got 2 scenarios that we're going to work out. I am the listing agent. You guys are the buyer agents. You guys work for Bad Breath Realty. Okay? You guys work for Remax Classic. All right? I'm going to give you back the offer. Remax Classic, pass those around. And Bad Breath Realty, pass those around. So here's what's happened, okay? So that we have a playing field that is equal. The seller has the home on the market for 3 days. One offer from Remax came in early this morning. That's you guys, all right? Offer number 2 from Bad Breath Realty came in about a half an hour later. Now, the seller, okay, the seller is very motivated and wants to wrap this up as soon as possible. He asks you to have these 2 come back with their highest and best offer. You've explained that the home is listed at a price that might make it hard to appraise. And they're worried about that. They need a fairly quick sale, so that's a concern. The buyers love the house. So you guys have a buyer who loves it just as much as these guys, no more, no less. All right, that's important. Now, all right, here we go. Both buyers live in an apartment. And after their closing costs and down payment, they will have about $6,000 left to their name. Okay? That's it. That's their financial situation. They're relying on you to draft an offer to get this deal done. What changes do you make in this offer to make it more appealing and to get it taken? Okay? So, again, you both are competing against each other. And you want this house. You've got a certain scenario, you've got $6,000 in cash to work with. How will you make that work to your benefit? Work this PA, rework it, so you can present it to me and get your offer taken. Is that clear?
What's the list price on this house?
Let's say the list price is $215. Okay, list price is $215.
212 is what they
212, you have an offer for 212, they have an offer for 214. But it doesn't matter, right? All things are off. You're starting from scratch now.
Now we know.
Because now that's fine. You know what? And normally, here's what you normally have to realize. Your mindset in a multiple offer situation is that your first offer probably isn't going to get it done. So all bets are off. Let's re-engage and think about what we can do to get them to take our offer. So you guys got about 15 minutes to talk about this and figure out what you're going to do to present to me an offer that my buyer will take. The current situation I'm dealing with. What is the significance of a June 1st date in real estate?
Isn't that
Tax date.
homestead?
Homestead date. So let's think about that. I have a situation which I'm selling one of my rental homes, and my taxes are outrageous because it is non-homestead. I want to get that closing done by May 30th because it has an advantage. What I've done is I've rented it out. The home is now going to be sold to someone who is not an investor who lives there. It would be very nice if we got this thing done by May 30th, so they would have a reduction in the taxes. You understand how that scenario would work? All right, so just think about that. Remember that's an important date in real estate as it relates to homestead versus non-homestead taxes. Yeah. Here's what we have to do. I need a volunteer to go first, but then I have, you're on your honor to not, group number 2, to not be saying, ooh, that's a good idea, let's change that. All right, these are the cards you're played with. So somebody, just you stay where you're at. Tell me who is going to go first? You will.
Go first.
All right. So are you bad breath or you Remax?
We're Remax.
All right, you're Remax.
We're the best.
All right, so with that being said, what have you done to formulate your offer? If the price is $215, they're well qualified in terms of their financials, but they do have limited cash. They have $6,000. Once they've calculated the closing costs, once they've calculated the down payment, they got about $6,000, okay? So those are the, and you guys both love the house equally, okay? So we also understand that you'll both do a nice buyer letter and you'll do all of those things. Now it comes down to, as the listing agent and the seller, show me the money. What are you gonna do?
Can I present my offer to
Yeah,
the seller?
absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I can come over to the house?
Yeah,
and-
you can
or
go
to
in the office, yeah.
Okay, so what we've done, we've come back with our highest and best on your beautiful home. And the buyers have agreed to raise their purchase price to $217,000. Doing that, I really don't feel that we'll have any type of an appraisal issue, since the list price is $215,000. However, since they were going to put a little bit more than 20% down originally, they decided they're going to go with the 20% down conventional. So that actually has them bringing less money for the down payment. However, the buyers are willing to pay for the owner's title insurance policy that the sellers would typically pay for, and that approximately $1,300
For the two.
donor.
Oh, for the test.
And then also the buyers are willing to pay for the transfer tax that typically the seller would pay, and that's about $1,892.
That would still leave.
So in reality, that's putting more money into the seller's pocket without having to worry about an appraisal issue. So bottom line is, even if we bumped it up a little bit more and they didn't pay that, still the seller's going to be approximately $3,200 ahead of the game.
Yeah, looks like the net would be equal to a 220, 18, 19, a 220 offer
Without affecting appraisal.
without affecting the
We're not having to
just
worry
right
about
to
an
the
appraisal
appraisal.
issue.
That's right, okay?
We're hoping we have a listing agent that understands.
Yes.
Right one day.
I know. You guys are going to learn that your life is in the hands of other agents at many times, and that can be frustrating. So you want to make sure you always cultivate friendships, you always cultivate relationships with other parties, other agents. And if need be, there's a danger in terms of educating the other client, the other agent. Some people are very offended, you don't need to tell me how to do my job, I know how, okay. Fine line. Do you really know how to do your job is what you're thinking, because if you do and add this up, that's what it means. Okay? So everybody understands that what you're doing here are some hidden costs that really are used to defer an issue with appraisal and still get the seller more money.
And they still have their 6,000.
And they still have their 6,000. Yeah, they still have, okay, because they're gonna put a little bit less down.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. What'd you guys do?
We have a pretty strong offer. No expenses
All right.
spared here.
All right.
They need this house.
They need this house.
All right, $220,000 with a 20% down conventional mortgage, and they're willing to, if the house appraises for at least $204,000, they're willing to pay up to $11,000 over appraised value, up to $230,000.
Okay, 11,000 over, right?
right?
So wait, they're putting less down?
Putting less money down. They're putting
20%.
20% down.
Yeah. Okay, so if I'm the seller, I'm looking at this fairly, this one I can understand. This one I need to spend the moment on, because now I've got still a 20% down. What is this buyer down?
20%.
20% as well? Okay, so we've got equal there.
But if the top one appraises a little bit more, you're bringing, well, you're still coming out to the two.
Yeah, you know, it's all on the appraisal here. You know, it's all on the appraisal. So really, I think that you've got a situation in which these are very, very similar offers, right? And depends on how worried I am about this appraisal.
And you're saying they're putting 11,000 down, so they did.
No, 11,000 over an appraised
over.
value. So if it came in at 212, their offer is actually 223.
But what is that, 6,000, are they dipping into that 6,000? I
They're
mean,
actually taking away. They're spending the whole 6,000,
Right.
Yeah,
and
see.
they reduced their.
we didn't want to put our buyer in that situation. And I don't think that's a good situation to put your buyer in.
Does that mean if it appraises at 204, they only have to pay 215 for it?
Well, we would look at that appraisal at that point in time
Okay.
and see what the wording is.
Whereas
as we
they're
discussed
guaranteed
about.
this.
This is,
Okay.
yeah, this is
Is
easy.
your buyer agree with that?
This is easy. This is a bad breath realty. You gotta realize, this is bad breath realty.
They need
They need this
As a buyer, I
sale.
wouldn't agree.
Yeah, this agent cares about one person, and that is him. Right?
Well,
So,
I'm a little more concerned about the buyers. Liquidating all their reserves. I mean, they want things that you think will get
No,
sold.
so the way obviously we adjust it would be the 20% down. I mean, there'd be no need for them to put 20% down on the
Right,
purchase.
right.
This would give them strictly the strongest offer in a competitive situation. They obviously wouldn't want to liquidate all their reserves. So, but the 20% down, that would they would have the option, right, of obviously putting 15% down or 16. But I don't know. We kind of looked at it where this would be within their means and what was realistic. This would be just their absolute strongest offer.
okay. What about, one thing that wasn't addressed, one of you had originally an offer of $1,500 earnest money deposit, and one of you had
We have two.
2,000. So one of the things, just as a sidelight, you may want to consider is they're going to look at that as well. This is a net, and certainly that probably is first. Two other things though that would have helped an offer would be to say, okay, $5,500 is the limit for small claims court. I'm going to raise my EMD to $5,000. And, you know, money talks, and now I'm showing a sign of confidence in terms of the mortgage going through. So keep that in
Again,
mind.
it comes from their cash reserves.
And it would have to certainly come from the cash reserves, yes, all right.
But if the appraisal doesn't come through, I mean, isn't that a problem?
Both of these, this one, depending upon what the appraisal addendum, a bad breath, depends on what the appraisal addendum says, okay? We have to look at the details of that appraisal addendum. On the other one, I mean, you're able to walk away, you know, if it doesn't appraise, yeah? So, a little bit
Plus-
scary.
Or
If it
Or,
appraises
yeah,
lower
negotiate.
and you
Or-
negotiate on it,
we got rid of them. If we
Your
can get
other-
ours accepted, and if it doesn't appraise,
Yeah.
then we can go back, and they do have some,
6,000.
they have some reserves, so they don't want to really tap into that, but possibly we could work with the lender and also reduce, maybe they can qualify for 15% down.
All right,
So
Tim
that-
asked a very important question, you guys, and that is, can I present my own offer? You guys realize that that is sometimes an option. And in a multiple offer situation, you may ask if you can do that. What's happening is generally you're gonna get a no. No, thank you, you know, I'll be, you know, that's why they hired me. I certainly can read the PA, I'll give it a good opportunity for you to have your offer presented as strongly as you've written it. But that is something that you might want to do, especially you guys with regards to this, because you're going to have to explain how that all works. If not, because if you can't get in front of the seller, you certainly want to make sure that the other agent understands that and can describe it to them. Okay? Now, this is a real life scenario because this is happening every day out there. Every day. And you are so your offers are so contingent upon the knowledge of the other agent that it's a little frightening. You know, it is, but it is just the reality, you know. So you want to do your best, put your best foot forward and so on. In this case, I would probably, depending upon the gambling, if I was a gambler, obviously Bad Breath Realty's gambling with their buyer's money, but that might very well be, and it did say that they really love this house. Who knows? The thing that we don't know background, have they lost 5 other offers? You know, have they lost 2? Because all of a sudden, motivation level ratchets up, and maybe they're saying, hey, I am sick of this. I'm all in. I don't care if I walk away with no money. I want this house. Okay. Those are things that really can't be ascertained.
One thing that we'll say about our buyer, is that, you know, even with that lower purchase price, it's still, we're showing the savings of the expense of transfer tax and title insurance, also a slight savings of commission also.
That's correct.
So usually the seller goes, you're gonna save me commission?
Although the other agent may, well, it's not that.
Well, you know what, then that agent shouldn't be doing this because
Yeah.
these agents are too concerned about what they make
I know
than
that.
what their clients
Oh,
are.
yeah.
And
You know what, and I
percentage.
always, we ran
We all
into
gotta
this.
make money.
We
that's
ran
right.
into this many years ago as it relates to, okay, should you be paid on gross, should you be paid on net? Guys, the seller is only, if there's these seller concessions, for instance, right? I put in off $200,000 with $5,000 seller's concession, I'm really writing it in the 195 offer, right?
Right.
As an agent, I'm all right with collecting commission at 195.
Yeah.
Because I'm shorting the seller $5,000.
Yeah, and it's
I'm
like
all right.
a couple, it's like.
But you will find
$100.
people will fight tooth and nail for that. Somebody calculate commission on $5,000. 3% of 5,000 is what? 150 bucks? Yeah. They will set your house on fire for $150. So, yeah, so it's kind of crazy, but get used to that. Okay. Now, I don't remember what I did for occupancy, but another item on it, you know, it's immediate possession.
Yeah.
Another item to remember is that occupancy would be one that would be very, very important as it relates to a negotiating chip. Nobody wants to do a double move, and a double move, if you can prohibit a double move, you know, that's very, very, very much in your favor. It's also true.
$15,000 to $2,000.
Yes.
So-
And quite honestly, the way it's set up with a client, with your buyer, is if I close today, my first payment's going to be when? July 1st, right? So really, it's not that you are not paying money, but psychologically to a buyer, their first payment is July 1st. I can let them live in that house till July 1st, right? At no additional cost.
See the cash coming
And they
out.
don't see the cash coming to them. So that would be something, you know, I will give you 40 days of free occupancy. And that's better than a sharp stick in the eye, right? That's not the case in this particular scenario, but it is one that you want to look at and suggest to your buyer, okay? So any questions about Bad Breath Realty's offer or RE/MAX's offer? RE/MAX is fairly straightforward, very creative in terms of utilizing the transfer tax and utilizing the title policy to give you some hidden dollars to get to the buyer or seller without appraising buyer. And Bad Breath Realty has simply moved some money around and said, hey, I'm all in, I'll pay up to $230. But fairly confident that if they're smart about the market like the seller presumably is, they know that at $215 they were worried about an appraisal. So the buyer is possibly saying, hey, you know what? Don't worry, Mr. Buyer. This thing is never going to appraise up to $230. You're never going to have to pay $230 for it. So both of you took a slightly different tack. Good job.